Marcus Rashford. Marcus Rashford was born on the 31st of October 1997. Rashford is an English professional footballer who plays as a forward for Premier League club Manchester United and the England national team. Marcus Rashford has always been a Manchester United player. He started with the team from the age of 7. He scored 2 goals on both of his first team debuts against Midtjylland in the UEFA Europa League in February 2016 and his Premier League debut against Arsenal 3 days later. He also scored in his first Manchester Derby match, his first EFL Cup match, and his first UEFA Champions League match. With United, Rashford has so far won the FA Cup, the EFL Cup, the FA Community Shield, and the UEFA Europa League. Marcus Rashford, the 22-year-old Manchester United forward, has embarked on a campaign to enact change. On March 19, 2020, Marcus Rashford went on social media to highlight his fears about the impact that shutting down schools would have on disadvantaged children. He may be a high-profile Premier League footballer now, but it has only been 11 years since the Manchester United and England striker needed breakfast clubs and free school meals to supplement what his mom could provide. Rashford's mother is the head of a single-parent family of 5 children, and she was working full-time on a minimum wage. When Prime Minister Boris Johnson stood before the nation on the evening of March 18, 2020, to tell the country that schools had to help combat the spread of the pandemic, Rashford immediately knew what that would mean. While most parents wondered how they were going to manage childcare, Rashford wondered how kids growing up as he had would get fed. Statement: Rashford mentioned this. Guys across the UK, there are over 32,000 schools. Tomorrow, all of these will be closed. Many of the children attending these schools rely on free meals. So I have spent the last few days talking to organizations to understand how this deficit is going to be filled. The start of the 6-post thread received 42,500 likes on Twitter. Just under 13 weeks later, Rashford posted again, a rather simpler message. I don't even know what to say. It received 709,000 likes. In between, Rashford had helped supply the equivalent of 3 million meals. He had highlighted the damage caused by the invisible issue of food insecurity. He had received messages of support from Liverpool and Manchester City. He had changed government policy. As Rashford returns to his day job, it is worth understanding his reasons. At the age of 22, he has been so willing to step out of his comfort zone. It is worth understanding how he has ended up so revered and admired for his work away from the football field. Rashford presented his backstory in a letter sent to the MPs on Monday, and he stated, "As a family, we relied on breakfast clubs, free school meals, and the kind actions of neighbors and coaches. Food banks and soup kitchens were not alien to us. I recall very clearly our visits to Northern Moor to collect our Christmas dinners every year. It's only now that I really understand the enormous sacrifice my mother made in sending me away to live in digs, age 11. A decision no mother would ever make lightly." For one of the most recognizable sports stars in the country, this was a brave move. It opened the door on a life Rashford could, if he wished, now leave far behind. He is not far into his career, but he has already earned enough to ensure none of his family need to worry about their next meal ever again. Yet that memory in itself does not tell the whole story. It is informative to hear of the time Rashford spent, already then a highly rated academic hopeful, kicking a ball about with his friends at public coaching sessions set up close to his home by the Manchester United Foundation. By that time, his promise as a footballer was already evident. His coaches in the United Youth setup had known of these impromptu sessions. They would almost certainly have been stopped, in just the same way as then manager Louis van Gaal would have recoiled had he known Rashford went for a kickabout with mates at a Power League complex within hours of making his United first-team debut in 2016. One person who knew Rashford during his early years has stated that there is an argument that these experiences has humanized Rashford more than would have been the case if he had just gone through the system. He has a really strong family. They are down to earth. His mother is a great role model. It is part of what keeps him grounded. Rashford's willingness to help out with the wider community has been obvious for some time. When volunteers were asked to attend foundation events, Rashford was amongst those who regularly responded. It was soon obvious he was able to communicate with youngsters and make them feel at ease. This is probably because of his background. There was an empathy and a rapport which the kids really responded to. Kids loved being in his company, and Marcus seemed happy to be there. He still does. This interaction should not be dismissed as insignificant, for as Rashford's career was progressing rather faster than many imagined, from England's under-16 team in November 2012 to selection for Roy Hodgson's Euro 2016 squad, 3.5 years later, he never lost touch with his roots. After Marcus made his debut, he was asked by a teacher if he would come back to his school. He was told that they were having a school disco one night. He was in the office talking to one of the administration staff when a group of lads appeared at one of the doors and buzzed to see if they could come in because they were all former pupils. They didn't recognize any of them at first, but Marcus was there. Marcus walked into the disco and all of the kids were there. He was brilliant. He chatted to them, did a quick question and answer session with them, and had photographs taken. He was absolutely amazing. Rashford has donated to the school. On another Christmas visit, he handed over £1,000 so that the school could provide the school children with a selection box each to take home. His ties to the community are so deep that he has a tattoo of the house he lived in at that time on his stomach. But it was an unrelated, unfortunate event last August that focused Rashford's mind on what he could do to help the community more. Rashford missed a penalty in a home defeat by Crystal Palace. The fallout included a number of racist posts aimed at him on social media. Days earlier, his United teammate Paul Pogba had been similarly abused. Those close to Rashford said he had already started to become more inquisitive about how the public perceived him. After the Palace experience, he thought, "This isn't okay," and started to take more control. As a child at school, Rashford had helped fill gift boxes to give to those in need. He remembered this. At Christmas 2018, he personally delivered items including thermal underwear, clothes, toothbrushes, and toothpaste to homeless people in Manchester. 12 months on, he partnered with Selfridges for a similar campaign. The gesture was well received, but for Rashford, it was not enough. In January, Marcus suffered a back injury against Wolves. It was feared it might end this season. Marcus Rashford and the people who worked closely with him began to investigate suitable partners to help deal more comprehensively with the social issues affecting his home city. The work was still in its infancy when it became obvious what a devastating toll the pandemic was going to take. By the time the Prime Minister had announced that schools would be closed down, Rashford had told Fair Share he wanted to make a donation and that he wanted to help. A nationwide charity, Fair Share collects surplus goods from the food industry. It might be from manufacturers or from farmers. It might be because orders have been cancelled or mistakes in packaging have been made. Through their partners, Fair Share then divert the food to charities, including lunch clubs for the elderly or the kinds of breakfast club Rashford used to go to. Those sorts of organizations are about 25% of the 11,000 organizations Fair Share supports across the UK. These are children who have potentially not eaten since the previous day's free school meal, so getting breakfast to them is massive. Marcus knew about this because he had been given meals. Fair Share. Rashford's elevation to national hero had just begun. Rashford is mentioned as saying, "I don't want this to be the end of it because there are more steps that need to be taken. People are struggling all year round, so we need to learn more about the situation they are in and how we can help them best." Manchester United managers Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has stated that Rashford's impact has been more important than any game of football. But the reality is that Rashford does play football for a living. He does have a long-term desire to one day establish his own foundation, so he can be hands-on in developing projects that would benefit the community. But for now, football must take priority again, and until the end of the European Championships in July 2021, Rashford is going to be quite busy. So for him, it is a question of identifying the projects and situations where he can help. On June 1, that meant a powerful social media statement in support of the Black Lives Matter movement. 3 days later, it meant standing up for an autistic black boy shown in a video being bullied by two white youths in a park. Since suffering racism himself, Rashford does not see why he should step away from subjects he cares about. As the past few days has shown, far more will embrace him for it than reject him. And if they do, he reasons he doesn't want that kind of person attaching themselves to him anyway. Those at Fair Share believe Rashford taking a stand can help drive lasting change beyond what has already been achieved. Food insecurity is an invisible issue. People talk about raising money for illnesses they have been affected by. There is not so much conversation around "I am raising money for a food bank because my sister skipped lunch 3 times last week." People don't talk about it because it can be a reflection on their circumstances. But the fact is that Marcus is doing so. Not only does this shine a light on the food insecurity situation in the UK, it also adds credibility because he has benefited from these clubs and seen how they work. This has been a review of the amazing work being done by Marcus Rashford, the 22-year-old Manchester United forward, and we applaud him for all his work and we wish him the best in all of his endeavors. Now like, comment, share and subscribe. Leave your comments down below and let me know what you think about the amazing charity work that is being done by this amazing young black youth who is on his way to greatness. Thanks for watching.